I am an ion of sodium. I have a positive charge. I am a cation. And I am extremely important in the body. There is a great deal of sodium in the blood, and so therefore there is a great deal of sodium in the filtrate. Most of this must be reabsorbed, and so there are reabsorption pumps in the PCT and in the ascending loop of Henle. Now, the reason that sodium is reabsorbed is that there is the sodium-potassium ion exchange pump. Most cells possess this pump. It takes sodium from inside the cell and pumps it out of the cell. In a nephron, tubule cells possess this pump along their basolateral membrane. In other words, the part of the cell membrane which faces the capillaries, not the portion which faces the lumen of the tubule and thus the filtrate which is becoming urine. So when this pump is active, it pumps sodium ions out of cells away from the filtrate and the urine and towards the blood. So the action of this pump promotes the reabsorption of sodium. Now, this is key to the transport of so many other substances because since so much ATP energy is being used to create this sodium gradient where it's moving from the filtrate through the cell into the blood, other substances can take advantage of this gradient in order to move. There are a number of gates which will only allow, say, glucose or an amino acid to pass through if sodium is coming with them. So the movement of sodium from the filtrate into the blood can then be harnessed to move other substances as well. From the PCT and the ascending loop of Henle, the reabsorption of sodium is obligatory. It always occurs. However, in the DCT and collecting duct, there are cells whose sodium-potassium exchange pumps are under the influence of the hormone aldosterone. So when the body makes aldosterone, these pumps allow for the transport and reabsorption of more sodium. When the body doesn't make aldosterone, less sodium is reabsorbed, and thus more sodium ultimately will be excreted in the urine. An enormous amount of blood is filtered at the kidneys each day, and an enormous amount of fluid known as filtrate leaves the blood and enters the nephrons. However, there is so much fluid lost, perhaps 280 liters, that this would be fatal if it were not for the reabsorption mechanisms that bring most of this fluid and most of the water back into the blood, the capillaries which surround the renal tubule, both the peritubular capillaries and the vasa recta. And this water can be reabsorbed in the PCT, about half of it is reabsorbed in this section, or in the descending loop of Henle. Only this portion of the loop of Henle reabsorbs water. Now, the reabsorption which occurs in the PCT and the descending loop of Henle, this is obligatory reabsorption. It always occurs. However, when the body wants to retain water, perhaps under the influence of dehydration, where water must be conserved, then the hormone ADH produces additional water channels along the DCT and the collecting duct. So additional water can be reabsorbed in the final portions of the nephron, and urine can be concentrated under certain conditions when the hormone ADH is made.